You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by the National Association of Convenience Stores.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. This is Jeff Leonard with NACS, and what we do is we talk about things that matter to convenience stores, and if they matter to convenience stores, they matter to their customers, because we service 160 million customers every day.
And I'm John Eichberg with NACS and the Fields Institute, and Jeff, you're right, we talk about things that power your life, things that power your body, power your car. We sell fuel, food, time. We basically take care of the communities we serve, and that's what we're here to talk about.
And we didn't get to a position where we had 160 million customers a day without some amazing leaders and some innovation. And today we have the president and CEO of Sheetz, Joe Sheetz. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about what are the things that Joe is looking at as a member of the executive committee of NACS, and what is he looking at as one of the premier retailers, not just in the convenience channel, but in all channels. So welcome, Joe.
Glad to be here.
And I should have said, welcome, Joe Sheetz, president and CEO of Sheetz, not just welcome, Joe. So starting off, I had mentioned that you've played a active role in NACS leadership, being on the executive committee, being with the government relations committee and in research. So you've seen all the elements of what our industry is all about, both the numbers and telling the story about the numbers. What are some of the big issues that you think that our industry needs to look at as 2017 is in its first quarter?
Well, I think a lot of the issues for 2017 are what I would classify as carryover issues, some things we've been dealing with for quite a few years. I think the biggest is somewhat of a change in the business model for most people in our industry. For years, the money was made in a lot different ways than it's made now, and there was a lot more weight that needed to be given to tobacco, to gasoline, to packaged goods, and that was pretty much the model for quite a long time. And over the last, probably decade, but more pronounced over the last few years, things are getting tougher, especially in the tobacco market, as less people smoke and as the price goes up due to price increases and tax increases. And things are getting a little tougher in the fuels market as cars get more miles per gallon and people don't need to stop at the gas station as often. And I think the whole industry has had to find other ways, other services to offer, other products to sell. And we've kind of been in a transition period. It's been a little different geography by geography, but I think it's been a transition period for everybody.
So, Joe, with the kind of decline in opportunities we see in those two core categories, tobacco and fuel, where is the industry evolving into? What should retailers and consumers be looking for in convenience stores going into the next 5-10 years?
Well, I think the biggest trend, obviously, is food service of one variety or another. I don't know that that's a magic bullet that every retailer that's in the industry can really effectively grab onto, but it's certainly been the most popular choice of people looking to branch out. And that's everything from an expanded grab-and-go offer of items that can be ready for customers that are in a hurry, that are on their way to work, their way home from work, on their way to an event. An increase in the quality of those in the offer, everything from healthy items to indulgence items, and really stepping up the game as a food service purveyor. And at the same time, taking advantage of the fact that the industry's always been a great destination for beverages, and historically that's been more packaged beverages, your large brand name package type beverages, but now I think you see a lot of push into more specialty beverages, some even made behind the counter for people. But I think those are the things you're already seeing in many markets, and if you're not seeing it, chances are you're going to see definite improvements in food and beverage offers at a convenience store near you sometime soon.
Now, you had mentioned food service, and that traditionally what we've done as an industry since we were founded in the 20s is take the best ideas of other channels and make them work in a convenience format. Today, we are one of every 3 retail stores where our sales are roughly on par with restaurants and with the grocery industry. So now we're at a point where, at least what I see, is other channels are just as much taking our ideas as we are adding their ideas. So does the whole concept of channel blur, and you're often competing as much with the quick service restaurant as you are another convenience store, does that alter how you go to market and look at things and try to attract customers?
Oh, there's no question. I think that, if you look at a competitor board, if somebody has a board of their competitors they're trying to track, historically in our industry, we were tracking each other. You were looking at other convenience store chains, and now if you go based on how deep you've gotten into food service or beverage, and you ask people who your biggest competitor is, the answers are going to be, QSRs. You name whichever one's closest to you. Sometimes it's even fast casual restaurants, or people like Dairy Queen even. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of that and pay much attention to what they're doing, because you're really fighting for the same customer. I mean, you're fighting for people on the go that need a quick drink or a quick snack or a quick meal, and everyone's kind of fishing in the same pond.
And, you mentioned the long-term decline in gasoline as the major sales generator in the industry. And as we look at fuel efficiency standards, and we see we've seen an increase in gasoline demand in the last couple of years on a national level, but fuel efficiency is going to kick in here, Jeff, in the next couple of years. We're going to see that go down probably continuously for the next 20, 30 years. But at the same time, we know liquid is dominant. So there's a lot of new products coming on the market. When you look at the options for providing, I like to call it transportation energy to your customers, what are the things that you guys are looking at as the possible bridges to continue providing that service to your customers while recognizing the changing landscape of the fuel market?
Well, we're big believers in choice and variety, and that started obviously inside the store. Whether it's having more cooler doors with more beverage offers, or whether it's having a large menu of prepared foods to really be able to hit the target based on what you're feeling that you want that day. We base a lot of our brand on choice, and we don't feel any differently when we're thinking about fuels. So we obviously are trying to offer all the fuels that the public demands, but it comes down to, does the public actually demand it? We're not going to create a market for something. The consumer needs to do that. But we've obviously seen that, and I think, we've always had regular unleaded and premium and mid-grade, and of course diesel has become, and certainly in some areas, more popular, auto diesel, not just truck diesel. And now you're getting into alternative fuels like E15, E85. We have probably about a dozen electric charging stations, and we're just experimental. We don't know, what the dominant player might be 20 or 30 years down the road. I'm pretty sure it'll still be liquid, but we want to make sure that we've got the offer that people want and that we can react quickly if the market turns.
I think what he said, Jeff, key. You have to know what the customer wants. You can't create demand. And I think so many people are trying to influence the way the market's moving, not within the channel, outside the channel, by trying to create demand. And it really needs to be organic. The customers need to want it. And I've been telling the auto industry, they start talking about different fuels and different technologies and government agencies. You know what? Once the customers want it, retailers are going to sell it. And that's really, if you think about the history of the industry, Joe, it really comes down to identifying what the customer wants and providing it to them in the best, most convenient way, right?
That's exactly right. And in our case, because things seem to be changing quickly, although nothing changes super quickly in the fuels market, we'd like to have, some experimentation so that we've got experience in all the different areas and can react quickly when consumer demand changes.
And going inside the store, Sheetz is also one of the many larger companies. That the traditional model was, if you build a new store, you better have enough land because you're going to want to have fueling options. And now you have Wawa and Sheetz and Quick Trip, however you want to spell it, putting in more metropolitan stores that are walk-up stores. They're outside of campuses. So you're also looking at trends that go into demographics, not just what people want, but that there are different people depending upon where you're putting a store, and not every store is really good for gas sales.
Yeah, I mean, and not even if it's not good for gas sales, it's just not feasible for gas sales. I mean, what we do in our typical model, you're probably talking about at a minimum 1.5 acres, ultimately at least 2 acres of land, and that's just not available when you're talking about urban areas. But if you ignore urban areas, you're missing an awful large part of the population. And certainly in some of our markets where we surround urban areas, there's a big pull from people that are in the city, so to speak, to say, hey, we can't be driving out to the suburbs to see you, but can you get closer to us? And so we have been doing some experimentation. We started with some college towns, which historically college students are very good convenience store customers. And in those areas, you can't always get on campus, or you can't get close to campus with the type of land need that we have. And so we've experimented with a few of those. They're going pretty well. They're early on, but there's certainly more to come there that will be beyond the college campuses to a little more urban areas and somewhere where there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. And it really changes from, counting how many cars go by a site every day to counting how many feet go by the site every day.
I've been involved in the industry now for, 16 years, and I joined NACS. And the evolution, the way that the industry looks at things is amazing. What I found in the last couple of years is a shift in the way the NACS leadership is looking at major issues that are affecting the market. And obviously the market issues, the products, the consumer demand are always top of mind because you need to generate sales in order to operate your business. But the last year or so, the board and the executive committee really identified labor as a real high priority. When you think about the labor issues affecting the market, what are the things that are most critical in your mind for the industry to kind of get our arms around, and what are the issues we're dealing with?
Well, I think it differs a little bit geography by geography. In some areas, it's literally just a body count issue. I mean, there just are not enough workers for all the jobs that are available, whether it's in our industry or other industries, and we're all kind of fighting for the same people. Even if that's not the case, though, we certainly need a certain type of employee in our industry. We need people. We need people that don't mind serving all day long with a smile on their face and can engage people in conversation and can get to know their name and who are going to stick around and be there so that there's some consistency in the staffing. And that's tricky, especially with other competitors that have nothing to do with our industry, really fighting over the same group of people in many cases. And as the population ages and we don't have as many young people coming into the workforce, it's just a supply and demand issue, and the supply is getting tighter and tighter. So it's not just driving up the price of labor, which I think we can all handle somehow in our financial models, but it's finding good labor, it's finding people that want to work, and it's finding people that can be trained to do what we need them to do.
And wages and benefits are, of course, top of mind when you talk about labor. But Sheetz is also among the convenience store chains that are recognized as best places to work, either on a state level or on a national level. So what are the secrets? Not trades, you don't have to give away all the secrets, but what can retailers think about to make their store, whether they enter best place to work or they just want to be a best place to work? Is there a different way of looking at what younger workers look for rewards around a sense of purpose or time off, or is it flex time? What are the things that really drive employee satisfaction so that they are smiling all day?
Yeah, and that can be tricky, obviously, because not every person, whether they're the same age or not, has the same drivers or thinks the same. But I think in general, they do look for purpose. So they look to see that they're actually adding something to the company and to the company's success. But I think some things they look for, number one, is opportunity. A lot of people want to know that when I come into a job, that's not the job I will do at that company forever. There are opportunities to move up within the local store you're in, or move regionally, or move to corporate. So they want to know that that's an opportunity. They want to be obviously treated fairly, and that's a big issue, especially as you start to operate, multiple stores, and you get into 10 stores or 20 stores or 30 stores, and knowing that, store managers who have a lot of autonomy at their location are doing the right things and treating people fairly, and the rules are the same no matter which store you're in is certainly a challenge, and doesn't happen by accident. You've got to actually train and manage to that.
Jeff, I think you've done some research, and I know the convenience industry provides so many first jobs out of the gate and has employed so many people. What are the numbers across the nation of people that worked in convenience stores at gas stations?
17% of the population, about 1 out of 6 people have. And I think we have a good story to tell, because when we interview consumers and we ask them both what was, for the 17% that they did work in the industry, they say that they got value out of their job, that they were paid, their pay was commensurate with their experience. They would recommend the job. These were high 70s, 80s, 90s% that would agree. And for the 83% that never worked in the industry, they said, when we asked them things, which ones of these do you agree with? In particular, they said it's a great starting point for either high school or college. And another key thing that I think Joe alluded to is if you dedicate yourself and think long term, there's a chance to really play a much more active role in the industry, whether it's being a store manager, district manager, and in some cases your own company at some point.
And it's amazing. I mean, Joe, you guys know this firsthand. The industry has become so much more dynamic in the last 20 years. It's not your gas station with the cokes and smokes. It is a kind of a microcosm of everything we consume, and really plays a critical role in the community. Are you starting to see that type of recognition from the people who are applying for jobs and your customers as well? They're starting to. Do you see a change in their mindset as to how they view the industry, your stores, or your competitor stores, from where they were 10, 15 years ago?
I think so. It's sort of a slow process, because I think first impressions for people a lot of times are based on visuals and what they see facility-wise, but there's an awful lot of investment going on just about everywhere, and you're seeing a lot of stores being remodeled or torn down and rebuilt. You're seeing them, they not only look more modern, they're just more inviting. I think you're seeing a lot more lighting, a lot more parking, a lot more things really that lend to convenience. At the end of the day, that's probably the key word, is convenience. We're a convenience store. What are we selling? We're selling convenience, and the items are certainly going to change over time, the products and the services. But it's all about convenience, and I think that the customers have taken that more, maybe a little deeper. It used to be convenience is you have it when no one else is open. Well, now everybody's open pretty much all the time. Big boxes and grocery stores, you don't have the limited hours you used to have. So you need to differentiate yourself somehow. And I think that's why you're seeing all the investments in facilities, the investments in technology, the investments in training. And I also think that at the end of the day, a lot of these stores, and I know ours are all local. I mean, yeah, we're a chain, but we're family owned out of Pennsylvania. But every store is its own little, town gathering place to some extent, especially when you're in some of these smaller markets. And we do see that becoming a place where people meet up. Meet up to have a drink, or to say, hey, let's just meet there, and before we go wherever. And it is a little bit of an interesting change, I think.
And when you talked about convenience, I think convenience is evolving again. I know that Sheetz is among the many companies that uses social media, uses apps, uses all the internet allows to better understand customers, better serve customers. It's also creating a new set of competition. You have things like Amazon Go that's being talked about, where there's no checkout. And in the Pittsburgh market, there's a new delivery-only convenience store that's opening up and will be, I guess, competing against some of your stores. So when you look at the competitive landscape, do you also take into account what the internet could do? Like I remember hearing a while back that watchmakers were among those most affected by the internet because people didn't really need a watch after having the time on their cell phone. Now, I think that may not have been totally true because watches are also a fashion piece. But what are the elements that you look at where it's just like, wow, I don't know what that means, but that could be really big, good or bad to our industry?
Yeah, I think some of it already kind of happened, and it'll probably continue to happen, but I think you've seen the industry go to much more immediate consumable. So it's not going to get delivered within 2 hours or a day or even an hour. It's, I want it now. And I think you're seeing the products that are being offered turn in that direction. There's a lot less space on the shelves for, pantry loading items that you're going to take and you're going to consume over the next week or over the next couple of weeks. And I think you're seeing serving sizes get smaller and it's much more immediate, because that's the one thing that is a little difficult for others to compete against, is the immediacy. And so that's already somewhat started, and I'm sure a lot of that has been driven by the things you just mentioned. And I think that'll continue to be something that you can count on to change.
It's funny. Also, one of the things that Jeff and I have been talking about is some of the drivers for the industry: convenience, time, clearly, but also a lot of those things we sell really cater into the fun lifestyle, especially when you get in the summer months and people swing by the convenience store to get their sodas, get their ice, get their beverages, and get their snacks and stuff while they're out having a good time. So there's a lot of excitement that goes along with the convenience industry, even though if you ask a common person, do convenience stores excite you? They're going to probably tell you no. But when it comes down to it, there is a lot of excitement and fun that comes through it. And in that vein, when you look to the next year, Joe, what things get you excited about the opportunities for the industry?
Oh, I mean, it's almost countless. I mean, I think the exciting thing to me, rather than in a specific event or specific things coming up, there's excitement to me that the whole industry is kind of raising its game. And people look at me funny when they say that, because they say, "Hey, all your competitors are getting better. Why is that a good thing?" I think it's a great thing, because I think if the whole industry gets better and steps up their game, I just think we become that much more wanted by the consumers, or accepted by the consumers. It's not, oh, I was desperate, so I went to a convenience store. It's like, no, that's where I'm going to go, because that's who does it best. And I'm just excited to see the whole industry take those steps forward. Obviously, it's not everybody, and obviously it's not going to happen overnight. But I think it helps us, and it helps everybody in our industry when those things happen.
Well, I can't think of a better note to end upon. Thank you, Joe Sheetz. Thank you, Sheetz. Thank you to the industry. I think we're pretty excited about what's going to happen in 2017, and look forward to much more in the years to come, the months to come. And thank you, Joe, and thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. For more information about the National Association of Convenience Stores, go to nacsonline.com.